Hi everyone, welcome to my webinar, How to Rapidly Advance Your Career Even Though You've Already Done All the Right Things While Still Embracing Your Authentic Cultural Identity. So I'm Vanessa, and I'm a career and business coach and creator of my signature LEAP career advancement program. It's designed specifically to help reconcile the unique challenges of working in a multicultural company or business with people's own backgrounds and cultural values that so often seem to be in direct contradiction with what are the attributes of successful employees and leaders in Western corporation. Well, how did I do this? Well, for one, I am someone of a non-Western heritage and background who has struggled in the past and later found success in reconciling these differences, both in the classroom and in my 20-plus career at top consulting firms such as KPMG, PwC, as well as Fortune 100 companies like Northrop Grumman, Raytheon, and Facebook. I can't wait to share what I've learned with all of you. Here's what I'm going to equip you with during this presentation. How to quickly get where you want in your career so you can get to your desired position or role. We're going to shift our focus and tip the scales from the traditional model of career advancement or what we've learned or what they've told us to the secret or the untold, more effective model. We call it the secret because they are the methods that we were not taught in schools, not by our companies or bosses or even in our homes. Most of what we learned in our education systems, whether they be from Western systems or from Eastern systems of learning, have inadequately prepared us for achieving career advancement as quickly as possible. The problem with correcting this later in the game is that advancement, promotions, and the financial rewards it comes with has a compounding effect. Remember that from finance? We know this, but what does this really mean? Let's take a very simple example. If the same two people started out at the same salary and one employee was promoted every other year consistently, while the other was slower in their path, say every third year or so, the difference at the end of a 30-year career would amount to 74% difference in salary. That's a lot. That means the rapidly promoted employee will be making almost twice as much as the conservatively employed one. So now, of course, there are very many other factors that are important in this whole course in any given person's career. And of course, we're not even taking the time value of money or investment effect into this. But think about what kind of impact that difference could make. It can affect the comfort level of your family and your children, the quality of care that you can give back to your parents as they age. It can affect what you give back to your community, how much you can travel for leisure, the lifestyle you can lead, how soon you can retire. The point is, the best time to ensure that you're doing everything you can to reach your career goals and your life goals is as soon as possible. Remember, there is nothing for sale on this webinar. In fact, there is a free gift available for you if you stay till the end. I'm really just passionate about what I have to offer. So now I want you to turn the focus on none other than you. I want you to do this for me. I want you to close your eyes just for a second. Take a moment to remember what your expectations were when you graduated from university or from graduate school. Is where you are now where you thought you'd be 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 or 20? What were the goals and dreams you had? Think about it. Remember when the world was your oyster? When there were no limitations on what you could be or how fast you'd get there? How does that feel now? What's here now? What are the roadblocks you've encountered in your journey? What were the problems you've experienced? What are the concerns or fears you've had? What has gotten in your way from achieving those dreams? What is it that you want to achieve in your career, in your life? What is your time frame for achieving this? Okay, now I want you to open your eyes. This workshop is for you if you're driven and you know you're smart. If you know you've tried everything that you know how. And you're ready to try something new. And you're willing to invest in yourself, put in the time and effort to achieve your goals and your dreams. Well, perhaps the real problem is you haven't tried one more thing. Perhaps you haven't taken the steps that I'm about to share with you today. Once you implement what you learned today, you'll be able to really process some of the outcomes that will be ultimately life-changing to get you to what you're truly desiring, including the career opportunities you deserve, a clear path forward towards your success, greater financial freedom, which means resources to take care of your family, resources to plan for life outside of your work, leisure, entertainment, retirement. And of course, we never really talk about this, but the pride and prestige. We're always comparing ourselves to others. This is the Facebook, the LinkedIn generation. It's important to be able to get to where you're going. Maybe if it isn't just for pride and prestige. So I want to make sure everyone understands some of the things we are not delivering today. We're not delivering a quick fix. It's not for you. It's taken years of conditioned learning since we were children to have ingrained some of these behaviors that have slowed our growth. Not only behaviors, but self-perceptions, self-limiting ideas. It'll take some time and investment to understand them, much more so than unlearn them. In fact, in many cases, much of what we want to what's ingrained in us aren't things that we even want to unlearn, but that we want to fully understand, embrace, and make conscious decisions to pivot when appropriate. This is not for people who are unwilling to invest in themselves with time and energy in order to make a lasting impact on their careers, their lives, and their lives of their families. Warren Buffett, the billionaire investor, has been known to say, there's one investment that supersedes all others, and that's an investment in yourself. It's the single most important investment you can make. I'm not necessarily just talking about a financial investment. I'm also including time, dedication, and acute focus. Now, I know it might seem like I'm at an unfair advantage point. And that's because I've had over 20 years to observe the dynamics of my workplace. I've had great mentors and coaches and people I trusted who provided me with honest feedback and invaluable guidance. I've had the unique privilege of flexibility, being able to leave my job, even the city that I lived in, once I realized that the situation that I was in was not serving me. And I've had years and years of flexibility to be able to try different things, to make mistakes and learn from them. But what I really want to do is I want to take all of those learnings and pass them on. I really wish someone did the same for me much earlier in my career. I've also been obsessed with a study of nonverbal interpersonal nuances of the corporate cross-cultural environment and how they differ from company to company, country to country, from region to region, and even from cities to cities in the same country. I had an obsession with travel. I still do. I had an obsession with history and cultural studies, but I didn't go into work in that field. I worked in finance and business, and what happened was that I ended up focusing on the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, which eventually led me to travel all over the world, all over different cities, internationally, and it was a joy for me to observe and to learn cross-cultural communication differences and how things land in one country versus another, and it's my joy to be able to pass that on. If you have ever found that you did everything in your life, that you played by the rules and did even more than the formula prescribed, and yet you still didn't achieve the things that you knew you deserved as quickly as you deserved them, and you might not know why, or you might not understand the real reasons beneath them, I know exactly how you feel. I used to feel the same way. In fact, we might have a lot more in common than you think. Let me tell you a story. That's me in Mexico City with my Lolo, or my late grandfather. I was born in Mexico City, but my parents were from the Philippines and they left their homeland to flee the kleptocracy that existed at the time there. Some say it still does. And they wanted to make a better life for themselves, for me and my siblings. So we spent the early part of my life in Mexico as expatriates, where my father worked as a chemical engineer for an American company. But then we eventually immigrated to the United States, and that's where we've been ever since. And we all became naturalized U.S. citizens, and not unlike many hopeful immigrants, my parents believed in the American dream. And for them, that meant being able to ascribe to the virtues closely associated with our Asian culture: hard work, discipline, perseverance, and combining that with a good education and an American opportunity, a meritocracy. And the combination of that would get you success. And so that's what they believed the American dream was. They provided me access to the education and the opportunity while I was responsible for hard work and discipline. And success would follow. Add 2 cups of diligence and a half a cup of discipline, put it in the oven for 20 minutes. It was literally a recipe for success. So they prioritized my education, the stuff they could control, and made sure I invested in myself. And I didn't mind at all. I loved school so much. In fact, to this day, my parents still like to tell the story about how they had to drive me to school on a Saturday just to prove that school was closed because I insisted on going every single day. So I followed the recipe. I did the work. I got the education and all of the other inputs that would promise me inordinate success according to the formula. I attended the University of San Diego, where I studied finance and Spanish. I immersed myself in extracurricular activities. I even organized one of the U.S. presidential debates on campus. Of course, according to the recipe that I so strongly believed in, I pursued my CPA certification and then later obtained my MBA. And then even later, went after my CFA. If there was a 3-letter acronym that required some library time and a test, you name it, I was on it. Then continuing on, I worked for the next 20 years at top companies, Fortune 100 companies, industry leaders in consulting services, defense, and tech. And I made myself mobile. I was willing to work in whatever city provided me with the best opportunity. I worked in finance in New York, defense in Los Angeles, and tech in San Francisco. One could say I did my part, right? Never veering off course. Some days I felt like I couldn't think of any better path than the one I took. I was armed with education, certifications, and a great experience at big name companies. All of the things and experiences that should have guaranteed me success according to my parents' recipe. But no matter what industry I was in, or city I lived in, or even how progressive the company was, I faced challenges throughout my career, even at the most progressive of these companies. I didn't understand why promotions sometimes took longer for me to achieve, even though I was achieving similar results to my counterparts, if not better. Why was the idea of me as a leader not always so convincing to certain supervisors, even though I consistently led teams to reach inarguable achievements? What was I missing? After many hours, days, even years of introspection, coaching, interviewing successful people, and a lot of research, I learned about some of the values that I needed to succeed weren't innate in my personality or behaviors. What I learned was that many aspects of those virtues that stem from my cultural upbringing that I embrace often present a gap in perception in Western culture. Regardless of whether or not anyone recognized it or understood it, it was there. In fact, some of these virtues stood in exact contradiction to the values that I needed to succeed. For example, the understanding that the group or community is considered more important than any one individual, and that members of the group are encouraged to act in the interest of the group, is a concept acquired by me in early childhood. I grew up believing that speaking about yourself could be perceived as arrogant. But unfortunately, in Western organizations, this is often translated as lacking confidence or initiative. Man, I was burned out. I had two choices: continue to struggle and wonder endlessly, or try to figure out and win. I decided to figure it out. I invested in leadership programs, participated in them, and eventually began to lead them myself. I invested in high-end training and coaching for myself. I joined and led groups of women like myself in career development. I read a lot of books, and I even underwent a coaching training program. So I'm a coach myself. I continued to lead leadership and career coaching events in New York, Seattle, Los Angeles, San Francisco. And from that entire process, I developed a framework for success that I'm going to share with you today. The first strategy is what I call courageous authenticity. The first key and the most important strategy is knowing yourself. Self-awareness is the first step in shaping the professional impression you make and achieving your goals. Part of this is understanding your strengths, your weaknesses, and the driving forces that are innate to you and how they land in a work environment. How does your history, your background manifest itself in the workplace? Among your peers, managers, and people you manage? Have you ever been misunderstood? In order to really break through and understand what's getting in the way, you must truly understand yourself. You must perform a self-assessment. You've got to do this to discover and develop a strong understanding of skills, environment, and the manner in which you thrive. What are your skills? What motivates you? What are your opportunities or your own limitations? What are your goals? What are your 5-year goals? But maybe most importantly, what is the vision you want to set out for yourself 20 years out? Even more importantly, what do you consider your key values or principles? From a values assessment, we can explore and do a cultural assessment as well. Once you know and embrace who it is you are as a person, learn how to share your voice. Teach others about your background, your culture, and the perspective you're coming from. Good colleagues and supervisors will listen, and great ones will learn. You can't expect understanding or empathy without first enabling others to learn your perspective. If you have not found your voice yet, start with the one thing you wish others knew about you without having to tell them. Your passion, your truth, or your turning point. Start there and write it down. Then ask yourself if anyone around you knows it, and if not, consider opening up and sharing more of yourself. As you grow into your own voice, know that the sentiment you leave is more important than the mere words you say. If you are open and vulnerable, others will be the same way with you. Your voice is special and is a way to connect and create a connection that didn't exist before. The hard part about putting yourself out there is that sometimes it won't work. People will call you out or say that maybe you're too vocal or abrasive, that you've been too forward or saying too much. There's a price to pay for every expectation you break and for not staying within the stereotypes that bind you. But there is even a greater price for not ignoring the rules and breaking out of the stereotypes. Conforming can be easier and safer, but it also makes it harder to be perceived as a leader. The next strategy is seeking a safe environment. Find an environment, a company, a team where you feel safe, where you can express your true authentic identity without fear of judgment. Once you understand who you are and what motivates you and what your values are, you can later understand whether they're congruent with the type of company you're working with, or with your teammates, or your managers, or the people you manage. You can then take steps to make sure you work in the right environments that truly accept you, where you can be comfortable and authentically you. Google recently conducted a study where they analyzed what makes a team high performing. And the thing that great teams had in common was that they had psychological safety. People do their best work when they can make mistakes and learn from feedback without serious consequences. Knowing your team has your back means you can take risks, and there is safety in having a net of people who will be there to catch you if you fall. You want to make sure that the team or your boss or environment that you choose to work in supports you as a collaborator. That your interactions with your teammates and your supervisors will be as if you were collaborators rather than adversaries. And this is important in the best of times, but especially in times of conflict. We can spend so many of our days, our weeks, our lives at work. We do. Don't you want to be around people who feel like they're on your team? Are you able to connect and understand your colleagues? Ask yourself whether you can empathize with their values. Can you consider the following? This person has beliefs, perspectives, and opinions just like me. Or this person has hopes, anxieties, vulnerabilities just like me. This person, this team has friends, family, and perhaps children who love them just like me. This person wants to feel respected, appreciated, and competent just like me. This person wishes for peace, joy, and happiness just like me. Do you believe these colleagues and supervisors can answer the same way about you? Really think about it. In the environment you're in, ask yourself again, do you feel like you're bringing in your whole self to your work? Are you being your true self? How confident do you feel that when you speak up, you won't be judged? How confident are you that you won't receive retaliation or criticism if you admit an error or make a mistake? Really and truly address these questions to determine whether it's the place you want to stay forever or you want to commit to finding something better as soon as possible, or somewhere in between. Taking this step has led me to find better and better fits for me every time. It gave me the confidence within myself to reach for a team or a place that was more authentic to who I am. It doesn't necessarily need to be a different career or a different company. It could just be a different team or a different supervisor or even in just a different structure. The third strategy is to develop and exercise cultural competence and agility. Once you really understand yourself, you embrace yourself, and you find a team that accepts you for who you are, It's so important to not only recognize perhaps the values gap that you may have, but to navigate them and adapt, and better yet, point out the misconception folks may have about you because of your behaviors. Understand where you're coming from and how to reconcile it with what is perceived to be characteristics of success in your organization. There are beautiful elements of my Eastern culture that I fully embrace and that I'm so proud of. I alluded to some before earlier in the presentation, but for example, perseverance, precision, humility, respect, fairness. It isn't necessary even to turn your back on these virtues. However, it's important to recognize the self-limiting nature of some of these cultural limitations and the perceptions that come with them. I really want to go into a few examples to bring greater clarity on what I'm talking about. A Western idiom or saying that we have is that the squeaky wheel gets the grease. The idea behind it is that those who don't speak up will not get what they need or want. What I've always found interesting is that this saying doesn't address whether the squeaky wheel even deserves the grease. It almost doesn't matter whether they should be entitled to the grease, just that the way to obtain it is to ask for it. The idea of deserving or meritocracy is far more resonant to non-Western cultures. Take in contrast a saying I grew up with, the loudest duck gets shot. This is the concept I was raised to believe. Don't bring too much attention to yourself. Humility is the best approach. Unfortunately, in Western organizations, this is translated as lacking initiative or confidence. Another concept is around collectivism and individualism. These are charming images taken from Yang Liu's book, East Meets West. The West is depicted on your left side and the East is depicted on the right. I grew up with a concept that community is considered more important than the individual. We build a premium on building strong relationships rather than focusing on one-time transactions. Playing the long game sometimes means speaking up for others first before speaking about yourself, if at all. The downside of it can be that it's often perceived as subject to peer pressure, or that you can never be associated as a trailblazer. The idea of respecting my elders was such a strong concept in my culture. Is, actually. In Asian or Eastern culture, we pay deep reverence to our teachers, our grandparents, our parents. They represent wisdom and should be acknowledged and treated as such. In Western philosophy, we revere the explorers, the risk takers, the trailblazers. Those who are willing to speak up regardless of class, religion, or wealth. In fact, that's how the US was founded. The rebels who sought and fought for their principles. This is part of that beautiful entrepreneurial spirit that makes the US a place where entrepreneurship and risk-taking is fully embraced. You can see how this clash of cultures could be a dilemma in the workplace for a multicultural workforce, right? I'm not advocating for one way versus another. As I mentioned throughout, these are beautiful aspects of all of these cultures, but navigating the differences, respecting different viewpoints, and helping others see yours is critical for working and succeeding in a global economy. The idea of embracing your rich cultural heritage, its traditions, sharing them with others, and navigating the expectations or perceptions of leadership potential excites me. What excites me even more is the idea that once more and more people do exercise this cultural competence and share their perspectives and backgrounds with colleagues, then this competence just becomes part of the vocabulary and later the backbone of successful corporate culture. Well, that's just the dream, isn't it? But it starts with us. This is what really helped me accelerate my career. And the best part about it was that I got to be proud and loud of who I am. The culture that my parents raised me in, the history that my grandparents were part of. So how do we do this? Key strategy number 4, it takes a village. It's impossible to be able to do this on your own. In order to succeed, you need a team or a village of people who will help you find your way. You need champions who are not rooting for you to get to where you want to be. You need mentors who have been in the exact same shoes as you, who have stood in those exact same spots, sat in those exact same seats, have been confused, struggled, stuck, sometimes lost. They provide the wisdom because they deeply understand the journey you've committed yourself to. Allies, by their very definition, are people who are influential in your organization, but they're part of a group different from your own because they're not associated with the same group as you. Their voice on your behalf can be incredibly powerful. It's one thing if someone of your own background or gender speaks for you, but it's incredibly, incredibly powerful when someone from a different group does. It removes the perception of self-advocacy or self-interest. It gives greater credibility to your merit. It may be hard to identify, let alone even ask one of them to be your ally. Some are not willing, but what's the worst that can happen by asking them? We can help you get there if it's a struggle for you to ask. You need coaches throughout your career to help provide a structure and a plan to help you get to the next step, and then the next one. The best thing about coaches is that they help without bias and without judgment. They probe you to ask yourself tough questions and then answer them. They provide the accountability you need to make sure you're taking the next step when you say you've agreed to take it. They provide you with a roadmap and they make sure you stay on the right track. Listen, I'm going to share a bit of wisdom and vulnerability from hindsight. If there's one thing in my career that I wish I could do over, it's that I wish I got a coach much, much earlier in my career. Coaches back when I was just beginning my career were a newer concept at most corporations. You had to already be at the executive level to get one, and many times you had to be some sort of a problem. There was that, and still is that old saying, oh, he needs some coaching. So it seemed that when an executive level director wasn't performing, he would get coaching, and it was sort of a stigma. It was a negative thing. Well, thankfully, that has since turned around. Companies have coaching programs, and the ones that don't, individuals have hired coaches themselves to help achieve goals with just about any part of their lives, not just their careers. Along with all of this is making sure you're open to feedback. One can only improve oneself if they have access to unfiltered, unbiased perception of their performance, their behaviors and their style, and how all their behaviors, actions, and words land on other people. But you can only obtain the best quality feedback if you let yourself be open to it. And by that I mean not only asking for feedback, but being receptive to it, even when it's not what we want to hear at the moment. Consider feedback as a gift. Consider that it takes courage to give someone feedback, right? But also practice courage in receiving it openly, acknowledging that it came from a good place, that it was a courageous thing for them to give it to you. If someone wants to provide you feedback, say thank you. I'd love to hear it. Ask for it often and receive it with gratitude. Investing in yourself is one of the best returns on investment, I said this earlier, you can have. Whether it's investing in learning a new skill, developing yourself personally or professionally, tapping into your creativity, or hiring a coach, you need to give yourself first before you can give to others. It is our responsibility to take time to develop our gifts and talents so we can best serve others. Investing in yourself is an example of self-love. You must love yourself before you can expect others to love you. Why is investing in yourself so powerful? Investing in yourself sends a powerful message to yourself and to the world. The message is, the value and potential that I possess is enough to me that I'm going to give it the energy, space, and time to grow and create results. When you're willing to say yes, to take that leap of faith and invest in yourself, the universe will provide you with amazing rewards. I'd like to share some incredible ways that you can invest in yourself. And the great news is that they don't all require a financial investment. Set goals. Learn how to set personal and business goals for yourself. If you're not taking the time to set goals, it's like driving in the dark with the headlights turned off. You will not know where you're going and you'll waste precious time. Be sure to set some time frames in which you want to achieve them. Your goals should be SMART goals. You've heard of that, right? SMART is specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. Honor your intuition. You can show yourself love by trusting your gut and honoring the message that it's sending. Listening to your intuition will allow you to make better decisions. Valuing your intuition by not allowing the thoughts, feelings, or statements of others to take away from what you know to be true is very empowering. Paying attention to how you feel will help you make better, smarter, quicker decisions. I know for me personally, if I choose to ignore my gut or intuition when I feel a strong feeling about something, it's almost always a decision or action that I end up regretting. I've learned to always trust my intuition, and that is what led me to this life and business. Invest time in your creativity. Our creativity doesn't have to diminish as we get older. In fact, it is believed that the peak of creativity in most people is around 30 to 40 years old. Creativity can be the catalyst in the manifestation of continual learning and lifelong activity. It allows us to be inspired, to have fun, and to appreciate the beauty in the world. For me personally, I love photography and painting. I set aside time each week to do this, even if it's only 1 hour each Sunday. Invest in building your confidence. People who know their value have something to say and others will listen. You can invest in yourself by developing an understanding of the value that you possess and offer others. Learn to have the courage to speak your truth. The more you love yourself and own the value that you offer, the more confident you will become in sharing it with others. Practice self-care. Try to eat right each day, fueling your body with nutrients. When you focus on eating organic and healthier choices, you'll feel better and have a lot more energy. I know that unhealthy burger or cupcake gives us instant gratification. But if you're like me, you'll regret it later because you'll feel lousy afterwards. Exercise daily. Do something every day to get moving and to get your heart right up, even if it's just walking the dog. Exercise gives you the energy to take on the day with confidence because of how it makes you look and feel. Choose to be happy. I believe happiness is a choice. Happy people choose to focus on the positive aspects of life rather than the negative. They are not held hostage by their circumstances. They look at the reasons to be grateful. Most people are about as happy as they make their minds up to be. Abraham Lincoln said that. The way I remind myself to be happy is to make a daily practice of gratitude. I start each night thinking and writing down 3 things that made me happy and brought me joy that day. This helps me shift focus from all the things I might be considered to be missing to all the reasons I feel lucky to be alive. Work on your bucket list. If you don't have a bucket list, then it's time to start one. Your bucket list is meant to be a list of everything you want to achieve, do, see, feel, experience in your life. Your list may be ongoing and you can start by writing 100 things down. Then each month or so, make sure you're knocking out at least one of the items on your list. Mine is heavily travel related. Travel has always been a passion of mine and something that really fulfills me. I try to make sure there's something I look forward to in the future, even if it's just a visit to a landmark in my own home. And lastly, invest in a coach. A coach can assist you in pulling all of these strategies into action. A coach is your partner in success. It is their job to assist you in creating and implementing your success plan so that you can be the best person that you can be. I promise you this. When you invest in yourself, a world of opportunities will open up for you. And if you have a business or a career where you want to sell services or a career you want to propel, you must know that no one will invest in you unless you invest in yourself first. Investing in yourself emotionally, physically, spiritually, financially will allow you to become the best version of yourself. When you are the best version of yourself, you will become an attraction to others, a magnet. So there you go. Just to summarize for you the key strategies I wanted to share with you to advance your career while still embracing your authentic self, even if you think you've already done everything, are to be courageously authentic, find the environment that accepts you for who you are, develop cultural competence and agility, seek out mentors, coaches, and allies, be willing to invest in yourself. So I have just shown you the system which I personally have used to advance in my career, my business, and quite frankly, in life. You've listened to how it works and how I've done it, and you know what I'm saying can help you. And if you're someone who really can help people and deliver good value to the market or your job, you might be wondering how you can implement these tactics yourself. And obviously the 5 strategies method works. So many people that I've encountered or that I've coached has had success with it. So if you'd like me to personally help you implement everything we've gone, I'd be happy and excited to do so. And here's how. In the beginning of this presentation, I said that I had a gift for you, and now I want to tell you more about that. My team and I have set aside some time to talk with you about how you can apply these ideas to your business starting today. Again, this is completely complimentary. The cost is free. Here's what will happen on this call. Together, we'll work to understand your key motivators, what drives you, what gives you energy versus what takes away from you. We'll work to hone in on what your key values are, your guiding principles. Then we'll outline what the problem statement is for you. What's getting in your way? Is it perspective, mindset, dealing with situations? And lastly, we'll develop a roadmap to help get you where you want to be to achieve your short-term goals and long-term dreams. Okay, so on this call, if you see the value of us working together, we can discuss what that might look like, and we might invite you to become a client. If we decide to work together, we'll begin to work immediately to help you. And if we don't decide to work together, that's totally okay too. But we have some requirements for this call. So you must be able to invest some of your time. I said this before, this isn't a quick fix. Rome was not built in one day. You must be willing to invest energy. It's not for you if you're looking for it to be easy. Rome wasn't built in a day, but they were laying those stones every hour. You must be willing to be open. Someone once said, enjoying success requires the ability to adapt. Only by being open to change will you have a true opportunity to get the most from your talents. You must be ready to apply what you learn and what we discover together. Knowing is not enough. We must apply the lessons. Willing is not enough. We must actually take action. Lastly, and perhaps most importantly, you must believe in yourself. Our worst enemies are our self-limiting thoughts, our saboteurs, our self-critics, the voice in our head that fuels our imposter syndrome. You must be able to practice a mindset of belief. If you believe in yourself, I promise you will be unstoppable. So why are we doing this? Well, we're offering these calls because first and foremost, we want to be of service. Having been through 20 years of sometimes feeling stuck, feeling alone in a man's world, feeling like I'm a square peg trying to fit in a round hole, and somehow making my way out, getting unstuck and finding success, Well, I'm truly grateful and passionate, and I feel like I've been very lucky with supportive allies and coaches. I truly want to pass it along, and I want to pay it forward like that movie. I want people like me to find success. I want you who struggle to find success and then maybe later also pay it forward. I want a world in which all people who have worked very hard in their lives are still willing to put in the time and effort and have a great chance of finding success also. I've spent what some consider an entire career helping companies with financial strategies, building out compliance programs, strategic operations. I've had a come to Jesus moment, if you will, and now I want to spend the rest of my working years focused on helping people. This is the part of my career that has always resonated with me and has fulfilled me. So let's start now. For having stayed through this entire workshop, you're invited to apply for a 50-minute discovery call with me. Spaces are really limited as we've already started to fill up spots even before this workshop. And every time we've offered these personal calls, they book up really quickly, and we only have a small amount of calls in the next few days. So get on the website www.leap-consultants.com/apply now. And so there it is again. My final message for you is we get to live this one life, this one beautiful life. I want all of us to make every minute and every hour well spent, and every choice one well made. I want you and everyone to be able to achieve the career and the life that you want and deserve. So folks, thank you for investing your time this past hour or so with me. And I invite you to explore further and deeper with me. Sign up.